Okay, so are you ready to dive in?
I am. I am.
All right.
Let's do it.
Today, we're tackling natural resources,
Okay.
and we're using this grade 12 biology textbook
Sounds
as
fun.
a jumping off point.
Yeah.
But
All right.
we're going to go way beyond just
Okay.
the basic stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to really look at how natural resources
hmm
impact our lives and shape the world around us.
I think it's a good place to start because, I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
have you ever just stopped and thought about, where, everything comes from?
that's such a good point.
Like the water we drink,
Yeah.
the houses we live in,
Yeah.
the clothes we wear.
Yeah. Everything comes from the earth.
Yeah.
And
That's amazing.
that's what natural resources are, right?
Yeah.
The textbook definition
Yeah.
is resources supplied by nature.
Straightforward enough.
Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward, but I think it's really interesting to think about how
Okay.
what we consider a resource changes over time, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Think about something like lithium,
Mm-hmm.
like a few decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought that lithium would be
Right.
this crucial element for our smartphones and electric cars?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
Yeah, and the textbook goes on to talk about
Okay.
actual versus potential resources,
Oh, interesting.
which I think is fascinating.
Okay.
So actual resources are the ones that
hmm
we know about, we're using them.
We're using them currently.
Like coal timber,
Yep.
fresh water,
Yeah.
things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the potential resources are the ones that I think are
Yeah. What are those?
really, really interesting because
Yeah. What are they?
they're out there,
Right.
but we're not quite sure
Yeah.
how to utilize them fully yet.
Like, what's an example of that?
So like deep sea minerals.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
We know they're down there in the ocean, potentially in huge quantities,
Yeah.
but we're still figuring out the technology
Right.
and how to actually extract them in a way that's
Economically feasible and,
Yeah.
and sustainable.
and sustainable. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. So those are the potential resources. That's so cool.
Yeah. And I think it's it really makes you think about,
Yeah.
what could be the next big thing?
Totally. Yeah. What's the next lithium?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's going to be the next lithium?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? It could be something we haven't even thought of yet.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Hmm.
It's exciting.
It is. Yeah.
It's exciting. So speaking of exciting things,
Okay.
let's move on to the biggie.
The biggie.
Renewable versus non-renewable resources.
This is a big one.
This is a big one.
Yeah.
And again, the textbook kind of lays out the basics here.
Okay.
Renewable resources can replenish themselves
Mm.
over time.
Okay.
Think solar energy, wind energy,
Yeah.
sustainably managed forests,
Right.
things like that. Things that come back.
Yeah. And then non-renewable resources are the ones that exist
Okay.
in finite amounts.
Finite amounts.
So we only have so much of them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is where things get a little tricky.
Yeah, because we use a lot of those.
Yeah, because, our reliance on non-renewables,
Mm-hmm.
especially fossil fuels,
Yeah.
has
I mean,
obviously brought us incredible advancements,
totally.
but it's also,
Also,
led to some serious challenges,
huge challenges.
like climate change.
Yeah.
You know,
Big one.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
So it's not just about
Okay.
finding alternative energy sources, right?
Right.
It's also about
How are we using them?
rethinking how we use all resources,
All resources, yeah.
even renewables.
Okay.
The textbook talks about how even water,
Oh, right.
which is a renewable resource,
Yeah.
can become locally depleted
Yeah.
if we don't manage it properly.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you overuse anything, exactly. It's
Something.
about balance.
It's going to run out.
Right. It's about thinking about the long-term impacts of our choices.
Exactly. And thinking about, I think sometimes we forget
Mm-hmm.
that the way that we extract and process resources can have
Yes.
impacts that go way beyond just
Yeah.
the immediate area. You know what I mean?
That's such a good point.
It's like it ripples out.
Yeah. It's like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a lot here.
Yeah.
We've talked about,
A lot of stuff.
how our understanding of resources changes,
Yeah.
how technology plays a role,
Mm-hmm.
the whole renewable versus non-renewable thing.
Big one.
What does it all mean?
Yeah, that's the...
What are we supposed to do with all this information?
Where we go from here?
Yeah, where do we go from here?
I think for me, the big takeaway is we have to move beyond just
Oh, God.
defining these resources
hmm
and start thinking about them in a more
Yeah.
holistic...
Interconnected way. You
Yeah.
know, we really have to consider
Mm-hmm.
the long-term consequences of every choice we make.
Right.
And, and really invest in solutions for
Yeah.
a more sustainable future.
That's a great point to end on.
Yeah.
And I think, just thinking about the impact of our choices,
Yeah.
not just for us, but for future generations
Right.
and for the planet as a
Good
whole.
plan.
Conservation. The textbook kicks it off with, like, two definitions. First one's preserving, guarding, protecting. Pretty straightforward.
Keep it safe, basically.
Then it throws in careful maintenance and wise use to prevent them from disappearing. So it's not just hands off, right?
No, not at all. It's about using things smartly so they're still around down the line. Sustainability, that's the big word.
Sustainability. Okay, so let's break that down. They use trees, right? Classic example. Trees are renewable, but the book even says they can be wiped out if we're not careful.
Yeah, if we don't manage them properly, people think renewable means infinite, but
It doesn't work that way.
nope. Every ecosystem has this carrying capacity, like a limit on how much it can handle. Take out too much, too fast. Even if it grows back, you've messed things up.
So even with trees, we can't just plant a bunch and call it a day.
It's more complicated. Imagine, like, your bank account. You can take money out, it gets interest, but spend wildly, you're in trouble.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it. The textbook talks about coppicing. You cut the tree so it regrows, and just constantly planting new ones. Sounds good on paper, but is that really sustainable long term?
Tricky question. They work, but it's not a universal fix. Coppicing, some trees don't like that. Planting, gotta mix it up. Biodiversity, otherwise one disease wipes out your whole
A
forest.
monoculture, yeah, that's bad news.
Yeah.
So even with renewable stuff, there's this whole web of factors.
Yeah.
Speaking of webs, the book goes into conservation biology. Sounds intense.
Well, it's focused on species, right? Making sure they don't go extinct.
Yeah, that's the gist. They mention zoos, seed banks, like a last-ditch effort. Then protecting the whole habitat so they can thrive in the wild.
Two sides of the same coin.
It makes you think about zoos differently, doesn't it?
Definitely. Not just for show, they're crucial backup. But the goal is getting those animals back home to nature, which means protecting their homes in the first place.
Big picture stuff, which leads us to the flip side. Non-renewable resources. Fossil fuels, the big one. The book doesn't mince words. We got to use them sparingly.
Yeah, because once they're gone, they're gone. Millions of years to form, we're burning through them like crazy. And of course, climate change.
That's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
So what do we do about it? Feels like such a huge problem. Can regular people even make a dent?
We absolutely can. It's the little things. Driving less, walking, biking, those add up. Being smart about energy at home, appliances, all that. Supporting the right businesses, pushing for better policies.
So it's like a ripple effect, everyone doing their part.
Exactly.
Okay, to sum it up, conservation's more than just saving trees. Renewable, non-renewable.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the balance, how our actions impact the whole system.
And that's what they're teaching in high school, right?
Which makes you think, what are WE doing as adults to put that knowledge into action?
Good point. Lead by example, right?
Exactly. Food for thought for everyone. Hope this deep dive sparks some ideas. Thanks for tuning in.
Always a pleasure.